Hello and good morning. This is Jonathan Bloom of Bloom Consulting. Today we're going to talk about downsizing and acquisitions. Throughout my career, there have been a lot of downsizing and acquisitions and mergers, and today I just like to go through some of those historical facts. So we'll start out with an introduction, talk about my credit experience, my full-time roles in IT, and then with consulting. So Bloom Consulting began in 2000 as a sole proprietor in the state of Florida. It was intended for side projects and learning new technology, a mechanism in which I could research and then blog about how I learned stuff. It also served as a reference for future when I'm working on projects. If I already solved a problem, I was able to go back and look at the solutions, and it also allowed others to see how I solved those solutions. Today, we're going to continue the mission statement and discuss technology, specifically data governance, including Microsoft Purview, the Azure Data Ecosystem, and Prophecy MDM. So when I started out, I had an anthropology degree. I worked temp jobs, including maintenance work at apartment complex, setting up hotel conference rooms, as well as I actually moved furniture at IBM, the same building where my father worked. And then my mother said they're hiring down at Sears Credit. I applied, told them I could solve anything on the computer. They hired me anyway. I approved credit card loan applications over the phone wearing the headsets. At first, it was part-time, where the hours fluctuated. So there was never the same day twice, so you couldn't get a second job. You'd have spaces in between days. The schedule always changed. I got hired full-time and worked that for a bunch of years until there was an ad in the paper for Nation's Credit. I rode over there in my tennis clothes to drop off the resume. They interviewed me on the spot, and I got the job and worked there for a while. So the first downsizing is when they came in one day and said, there's rumors flying around that there's going to be a downsizing. And we're here today to tell you that's false. The next day they called us in and said, you're all fired. You have the opportunity to transfer within the company. So I applied for a job in Sarasota, Florida. I got it. And I drove down there like 2 days later and moved in from Atlanta. So anyway, I'm working in the bank. The branch where we had to do selling loans, which I got employed the district the first month. We had to go collecting door to door, phone calls. And then I had to solicit new business and establish relationships with the banks, the nation's banks. Another guy went to Tampa. He moved into Nation's Bank in the underwriting department. I said, oh, could I apply there? Yep. So I applied, got the job. And then I'm working in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I'm approving loans such as auto loans, home equity HELOCs, CD loans, line of credit. And I kind of got up to speed, having never done that before for that. You have to learn on the fly. And they were transitioning to a new system. A lot of the old timers weren't fond of change, but I'm like, this is great. So it turned out that they asked for a volunteer to do reports to consolidate the approves and declines by all the 30 underwriters. So I volunteered for that, which got me off the treadmill. And then I took the course at St. Pete Junior College for C++. I went down to the IT manager and asked every day, can you hire me? Can you hire me? Eventually he got tired and hired me. And I worked in the IT department, kind of like a manufacturing role because I was doing the Crystal reports, the Visual Basic, and the Oracle. So as you know, with banks, they acquire all the time. So I would say the 4, 5, 6 acquisitions during that time. So every time there's acquisition, you're worried, am I going to get the axe? But for some reason, they kept the credit center area intact. So that was thankful. They give you stock options, become an officer of the bank. It was kind of nice. Could have stayed there my whole career. So that's what we just talked about, the information technology. I got my foot in the door through that junior college C++ class. I learned the Crystal reports. They sent me to training in Charlotte for Oracle Visual Basic, and I was at the Nation's Bank. From there, I went to Kronos. It was actually called VisionWare. The first day on the job, they say, oh, we couldn't tell you during the interview, but we're being acquired by Kronos. So that's another acquisition. At Florida Power, I worked there. They got acquired by, I think it was Carolina Power. So obviously there were downsizings and reduction in force and elimination of positions. So I jumped over to Payment Tech. That was actually a solid company doing credit card processing. I think they were acquired by Chase. I probably should have stayed there my whole career. It was probably the best company I worked for. Then I left there because I wanted to do Java, but it wasn't going to happen. So I said, oh, I'll go somewhere else then. And then I went to that software company, and they had downsizings. The power would get shut off one day, and I'd call the recruiter, say, can you get me out of here? So they got me over at ZTEL. Now there they had, we did phone stuff for MCI, so my jobs would run at 2 in the morning. If they failed, I'd have to drive in, about a 40-minute drive, fix it, go home, go back to bed, and then wake up at 7. So actually, a new guy got hired, and he pulled me into his department. So it was a 2-man department, and we go to lunch every day and work with crystal reports, crystal objects. That was an awesome position. One of my favorite bosses. He was so smart, Harvard grad, and I love talking with him every day. And he let me have the freedom to do quality work. But then I went over to West Point Underwriters. Like I said before, probably on another video, the whole IT picked up and started a new company, and the hard drive crashed. I fixed it. They said I have a job for life, and that was a good job also. Really solid people. I like working for them. That's actually when I got married. So, I was teaching tennis for a while, and then my wife's like, you should probably go back to IT. I said, all right. So I got a consulting job. That company did wound care management. They got acquired by one of their clients to save on licensing costs. So I went to another consulting place, and they liked my work. I did start with Crystal, and then they liked it. So I did Visual Basic, .NET, and they offered me a job, but there was a hiring freeze. So I got blocked from that, and then basically went to another place, and then they offered me the full-time job again. But my wife knew somebody at the county, so it was doing Java. I always wanted to do Java, so I went to the county, and they, I figured job for life, man. I could stay here the rest of my career. So that's what I did. They never had layoffs previously before I got there. Second year, downsizing. Third year, downsizing. You had to reapply for your own job. The lady who got me hired got removed, and basically that was fun. I love working with the government folks, the county. That was a great job, and it was pretty laid back, and I did a good job for them. So then I switched over to the school board, where I thought it was a crystal report position, but it turned out I was an administrator of the school board doing reporting, and I had a team staff, which I was totally shocked because I didn't really understand that during the interview process, but those are some of the nicest people you'll ever want to work with. And then I switched over to GFI, which was a software company. My wife worked there as well, so we drove in together. And then basically they split the company into 5. She went to TeamViewer, I went to ThreatTrack. And we still worked in the same building, so we still drove in together. But then that brings us to our next phase. I joined the Tampa Bay BI user group. I met the head person, the president, and I showed enthusiasm for Crystal, and he said, you should learn the Microsoft stack. So I did. He got me to speak publicly at the SQL Server user groups and a variety of speaking engagements. He hired me through Bloom Consulting to do night work for a company doing MDS DQS. He liked my work, so he hired me full time. I was his first employee. And then you really see the transition from being a full-time worker to consultant. And we did great work for a variety of projects. A few more people got hired. I worked with them. It was a team environment. It was pretty agile, free-flowing. It's pretty great. But then I switched over to Agile Thought, and I worked there for a while. New clients, same people, because the industry is kind of small in this area. So I got more exposure through public speaking. And then I switched over to Allegiant in Indianapolis, Indiana, through a friend. And basically, they got acquired by DMI. So then I jumped to Pragmatic Works, one of the best firms you'll ever find that understands data. And I learned so much from them and did public speaking, solid project delivery. It was pretty awesome. They got acquired by 3Cloud, which is one of the best companies out there, I would say. And since then, they've acquired like 4 more firms, and they're probably the top largest Microsoft Partner of the Year company to work for. But Nudesic reached out, and I saw how great their accelerators were, so I went there, and they got acquired by IBM. And you can see the progression from senior to lead to principal to solution architect consultant. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I do appreciate your time. Thanks again. This is Jonathan Bloom from Bloom Consulting. Appreciate your time because I know you have a lot of other things to do, but thanks for watching, and be sure to watch for more videos in the future. Take care. Thank you.